Welcome to Universal Basic Calci, guys. I'm joined tonight by our producer, Amir Rasulov. Hello, Amir.
Hey guys.
And pleased to introduce you to our entertainment and legal expert, McKenna Conlon. McKenna, you are the Universal Basic Calci gal. Welcome.
Wow, thank you so much. I have not even conceptualized a title that could be so fitting. I am, of course, excited to talk about The Bachelorette and also about predictive markets.
So I kind of only surround myself with like really, really smart people, especially really smart young people. And McKenna is, I mean, Amir is an idiot, of course, but McKenna is like seriously one of the smartest people I've ever met. And I was profoundly disturbed to learn that you like The Bachelorette.
Well, yeah, you got to get the compliments out of the way now. I know that one of your hobbies is saying nice things about me, which I appreciate, but it is fair game to make fun of how much I know about reality TV game shows.
I had no reservations whatsoever about it being fair game. So not to worry about this. Now, I like you enough that I am prepared to watch The Bachelorette this season, and I did watch that horrible half-hour introduction before the roses or something like that. What was it called? What did I
Wow,
watch?
yes, you watched the whole first intro. Okay, that I feel like that's a pretty serious commitment you've made already. What did you think?
I hated it. I mean, I fully anticipate hating the show. I there was nothing. I mean, I can't imagine any human being publicly dating like that. I mean, it's horrible enough privately dating, and I don't know. One time, my oldest daughter was watching My 500 Pound Life, which she
Yes.
really loved, and I stood behind her like we had a window, and I looked in, and I was like, "For shame, for shame."
Mhm.
But the whole thing seems ridiculously performative. Although I was surprised to learn on the Before the Roses that some of the people actually stayed married. I mean, I was genuinely shocked by that.
Yes, it is rare. I think about 20% of the couples from The Bachelor and The Bachelorette are still together.
It's great that you're going to bring data to inform this conversation. All right. Well, actually, that is the point. We're going to try to structurally analyze something like this. Now, how did you get into watching The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, or what do you actually watch?
Okay, so I will say I actually haven't watched The Bachelor or Bachelorette in a couple of years, but I got into it the way I would expect most people do, which is that women watch these shows in groups. Oftentimes there's viewing parties for them. And I think that's also one of the reasons that this show stays very profitable is because the advertisers for these shows know that they're hitting an extremely specific demo at this time.
Right.
Women 18 to 39 are always watching this. They're watching it in groups. And so when I was in high school, there were seasons that I watched with my friends. There were seasons that I watched with my mom and my aunt and cousins. It would be hard for me to imagine, honestly, somebody watching this if someone they knew wasn't also watching it so they could talk about it.
Right. Men do not do that. Men watch basketball and football games. Okay. What's your favorite reality show?
Big Brother is the best one because it's sort of the purest form. It's just people in a house talking to each other, and their objective is to stay there.
Yeah. No, I know the premise of all the shows. And which of the Bachelor franchises dost thou likest the most? Is it the Golden Bachelor?
Okay,
Is
I
it that?
thought Golden Bachelor was actually an interesting concept and the only season that changed their demo. Like older women did actually tune in to watch this. I didn't watch that season, but I will say I generally speaking like The Bachelorette a little bit more because the women tend to make slightly better decisions. And so you can sort of exist in the fantasy where the couple might actually work out. I have reason to believe that won't be the case this season, which we may talk about. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm hip to that. All right, Amir, do you watch any of these shows?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good, good. My esteem for you just increased. Okay, all right. I do think though, um, I've kind of done a deep dive on this, and I've learned a lot about this, and I think there's some important lessons here. I learned one which I'll relate in a second. All right, McKenna, just kind of explain the rules and give us an overview of what markets are available for the upcoming season?
Okay, so technically, legally speaking, this is not a game show because there's not an obligation to the winner. The network, ABC, cannot force the Bachelor or Bachelorette to get married at the end. So technically, there is no guarantee that there will be a winner at all. And I believe this has happened before. I believe it has happened that someone decided not to marry any of them. Someone may correct me on that. But the general format is you start with the Bachelor, Bachelorette, man or woman, heterosexual, so that all the contestants.
Oh, sorry, there's no gay Bachelorette?
There was once a woman who was on briefly, then went to the spin-off show, found love as a lesbian, but that was a one-off. But
Oh,
they're all hetero.
so the gay Bachelor and Bachelorette shows are relegated to like cable, but
Yeah,
cisgender hetero shows are on network television. Okay.
exactly right.
Well, so there hasn't been as much progress as I thought. Okay. And how many people get voted off per show, or I guess you get a rose and you're allowed to continue.
Yes, you get a
So
rose.
kind of what's that?
You get a rose and you're allowed to say you start with usually 20 plus contestants, and about half of them are eliminated the first night. The first night is like a cocktail hour where everybody just talks and meets, and it's sort of first impressions. But then the episodes as they go on, the dates that they're going on get more and more serious, right? Like they go on weekends away. Then eventually there will be a time where the Bachelor or Bachelorette goes to the last few contestants' hometown. And then the reverse happens. The final 2 or 3 will go and meet her family. And then she'll pick one that she wants to marry.
Okay. And here we have markets on who's going to win, who is this Mormon person that's the star of the show?
Yes, this woman, her name is Taylor Frankie Paul. And I believe I have not been watching The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, unfortunately. It sounds like a great time.
Oh, yeah. It sounds fantastic. Really fantastic.
But they're getting a lot of mileage out of having her as the Bachelorette because she's the first one that didn't come from a former season, and she's bringing an enormous audience with her. I mean, the peak viewers of The Bachelor and Bachelorette in recent years have been about 2-3 million on live episodes, and she alone, I think she has some 7 million combined followers across Instagram, X, other platforms.
Okay, that's interesting. All right. So I presume now anybody who's tuned in because they think it's going to be like a serious homage to The Bachelorette, I've alienated everyone there. I am really interested in this as a market, though. So let me just say as a starting point, so we kind of talked about doing a show around this, and I sort of got interested in it. And I made a massive mistake, and I'm gonna share it. So it's my second mistake. I mean, I've made lots of mistakes in my life, but um, so I mean, you've discussed some of this, but as we've discussed extensively on the show, like I'm not a gambler with this. I'm an investor, right? So I really, I, I don't mean like this is going to sound boastful. I've kind of never been wrong. I mean, this is going to be like the third mistake I've made in my whatever 6 or 7 years of doing prediction markets. You noticed. And I think it's important because I didn't understand the actual dynamics of the market. And so I got duped, and I guess there's some opportunity for the other people. So when we spoke about this, I went and I read. I mean, obviously, I'm aware of the show. I've probably seen 5 minutes of it. I've seen enough to think that this is not something that Evan's really going to watch a lot of. But I was definitely interested in the mechanics of it. I read about the star. I saw that that was interesting. And then I looked through the men, and I saw that the market was dominated, right, by Doug, who had like an 85% chance to win. And there were 2 other people. Who is it? Shane and Lou, maybe?
Yes.
Oh, I got that right. And I didn't understand it. So I read about this guy, Tristan, and he's a Paralympic athlete. Like, he's a really good looking guy. He's got a social media following. He's a serious person. He's religious. And I was like, I evaluated it as an objective proposition.
Mhm.
Okay. Now you don't have to you can get a tiny violin out for me. did not invest a lot of money. But I actually think part of like this is important, like in having these conversations, is having skin in the game. So, I'm not talking about these markets abstractly, like Mike and I, and, like we're always invested. I mean, I might be making a conscious decision not to invest because I don't think there's any value proposition, but, I check, I'm on Kalshi all the time. Like I'm checking. Okay. And so I said to myself, oh, Tristan's trading at 1%. Okay. So like I go to my Bayesian heuristics. I'm like, well, how many? There are 25 people on the show. Is that right? Ballpark?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm like, well, an average person would have a 4% chance of winning. So that's under that. And I just didn't see how that could happen, how 1% could be justified. And I read the descriptions. I'm like, this guy's really compelling. So I bet some money on him. Okay, now I see how stupid I was. So this market is effectively a market. So I learned about Reality Steve because I couldn't understand for myself why people, were so heavily invested in Doug. Okay, do you want to explain to folks who Reality Steve is?
Of course, of course.
Uh,
I would suspect that people are at least familiar with the concept of a celebrity gossip columnist, right? These people
oh,
to write in print.
no, why would you make that assumption? No, I am actually in the world of like thinking people. I don't
Okay.
have time to read celebrity bloggers. Like,
Mm.
okay. Like Reality Steve clearly makes a living like obsessively following these shows and has a huge following. So he's just a professional spoiler. That's okay. No, it did not occur to me that somebody would dedicate their life to that.
Yes. Well, so he doesn't write for a magazine as many people in his situation might. He himself has, an Instagram, X, and a fairly successful Patreon in which he has a lot of followers. And much like many other celebrity gossip distributors, he's sort of gained his sources through his accuracy and the length of time that he's been doing this. So he was known to have on-set sources on The Bachelor, at least as recently as 2018. I don't know if any of the people that he was close with actually still work there, but it's suspected that he doesn't just write about The Bachelor and Bachelorette. He writes about a lot of different reality.
Oh, he has a lot of breadth as a journalist.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
And it's suspected that he has active contact with people who are working on the set, whether it be producers or even just PAs or something.
Okay. So, okay, by the way, while you were saying that, my esteem for you was simultaneously like, I was like, oh, she's so articulate and she presents that so with such erudition. And then I'm like, why does she know anything about this shit? But we'll do one about a Supreme Court case and then they'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Then it'll just be both meters will go up. Okay. So the first thing to say, I mean, a couple of senses in which this market is distinct, certainly from everything that we've discussed on the show before, is that this is a market with a known outcome. So let's just I try to give like the extreme examples of this. So imagine the Super Bowl coin flip, right? There's a market for this. Okay. God only knows why people would want to bet on this, but I presume the Kalshi market would be something 50% yes and 50% no minus fees. Okay. Now it's a different proposition if the coin flip had been recorded and was being shown in advance of the Super Bowl, right? And that's what this is. So I treat it as if it was the Kentucky Derby, which I would bet on, and it's about to go off, as opposed to it's a tape recording of the Kentucky Derby, which has been embargoed as going to be shown on delay. And it changes the dynamic of the market enormously, right? So, in the horse race analogy, if there's horse racing Steve who talks to all the jockeys and the people back of the track, so this market now becomes about the reliability of Reality Steve. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, that's basically true. The only other factor here is the additional legal problems that this woman is facing and the fact that we've already seen that one of her reality shows has halted their production.
Well, what is okay, you'll tell us about that in a second, but why does that matter? Isn't the bet here just because Reality Steve has pre-announced the finalists and the winner. Am I right?
This is true.
Okay. And so he said, didn't he say, okay. By the way, I went to Harvard Law School, right? Like, I mean, it's seriously, okay. So like he said that Doug and Shane and Lou are the 3 finalists.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to do everything in my power to forget this the instant we stop talking about this. Okay, and didn't he say that I'm sorry, what's the Mormon woman's name?
Taylor.
Boy, I've really alienated anybody who actually likes the show. Okay, so didn't Doug and Taylor go off, and hasn't he said that they broke up because she has an ongoing relationship, which was covered in, am I getting the gist of this correct?
Yes. So he has laid out not just who he believes to be the winner, but he's provided a very strong narrative about the season. He says, okay, in this episode, they're going to travel to this location. These men will be eliminated here. Then they're going to travel to this location, and these men will be eliminated. Then they'll go to hometowns, and then this will be the final 3. This will be the final 2. She'll pick this winner, but we'll learn in the reunion show that actually she got back together with her ex-husband. And so there will be this winner, but we'll know by the finale that, in fact, they've already broken up.
Okay. So I read all that, and I was deeply impressed by the depth and texture of the narrative that he offered. I mean, it seemed to be very, thickly reported. It wasn't like, oh, he's going to win. So I was moved by that. Okay. Now, the stuff you said about what's happened since, isn't that irrelevant to The Bachelorette? I mean, that's not going to change who won, is it? I mean, does it introduce any wild card that I'm not getting?
I guess I'm allowing for the extreme off chance that since as of today, I think it's Hulu that is producing her other show, Secret Life.
Hulu?
Hulu. And they halted production on it. And if they're halting production, it's an actively being taped reality TV show. Are they going to stop airing the episodes? Is there any level of scandal or legal issues that could be caused that would cause something such that the season didn't finish airing? This is extremely unlikely because all of these things only serve to add viewers to the audience. But if there were any sort of complications such that this just sort of couldn't be followed through on.
So what happens in the Kalshi market if the season doesn't air to completion? Is there a provision for that?
Markets resolve to no in that case.
Is that what it says?
Yes. I'm almost let me check.
It'd have to return the money. I mean,
if the season is canceled without declaring eliminations, the market resolves to no.
Oh, wow. All right. You've just earned your pay for the week there, McKenna. That's interesting. Okay. So there's a sliver of value on that. Okay. Let me just start by saying, I mean, I know I'm more of a compulsive investor than you guys are. I don't like the idea of betting on a market that's fixable. Okay. So, we'll talk about the Democratic primary and the Republican primary in a second. And I have a bet, which I'm going to get out of the market on the Texas Senate race. I mean, those markets aren't fixable. Or woe unto us if they are. I mean, you do have some interesting questions now. Like, I actually have a bet on unemployment rates. And I do have some concern about the reliability of the data, but I don't feel like the rate is known in advance. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I mean, I guess. Okay, let me refine my statement. I'm factoring in to my value calculation the likelihood of there being insider trading. Okay, so I guess if I didn't make this bet, but if I had been in the market on whether Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned, well, as it turns out, right, there, the draft opinion in Hobbs was circulated before Roe. So the clerks all knew it, and clearly the deep throat there knew it. Now, generally speaking, I'm thinking, and I have lots of bets on Supreme Court decisions, generally speaking, I'm thinking there that the chance that a clerk is going to go out and risk their legal career, to win a couple of $1,000 on the outcome of a Supreme Court decision, or or that Brett Kavanaugh is going out and trying to make a few extra bucks. It just seems remote to me. And I'd put the chance that the outcome of the Democratic primary could be fixed. It's certainly not known to anyone now. So I'm much more comfortable in markets like that. Now, I guess there's a couple of things to talk about here. Okay. So let's just first go through whether reality Steve is reliable. Then let's talk about the incentives for someone who works on the show to make a bet on it and kind of how actively Kalshi is monitoring insider trading. Okay. So what does the data say, and what is in your experience about the reliability of reality Steve?
I assume you're asking Amir.
Ha! You assumed correctly. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
he claims that 95% of his tips are accurate. I doubt he's running the numbers on that. I think that's just the sort of thing a person says. And I will say that he has had a few prominent errors in recent memory related to The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. However, there was only one instance in which he was genuinely fully wrong about the winner and didn't receive any information to correct that before the finale aired. So, as the season goes on, if he hasn't changed his mind, that is an indicator that he's correct. And of course, we could already know that, right? If he starts to be correct about, okay, they flew to this location and these men were eliminated, he's crafted a narrative about the season such that, the Bayesian analysis would be true here. If he's right about this, he's more likely to have been right about this and about this and about this.
Okay. So I saw that his predictions of the winner have been, greater than 95% accurate. There's this one notable exception. Okay. I presume you have not wagered on this, am I correct?
I have not.
Okay. If you were going to, that's more, we're just at different points in our life. You don't have a ton of disposable money, right? I don't have a ton of disposable money, but I have money that I've made from this. So if you were betting, or if you were managing my portfolio, would you be in on this market?
I don't think I would be. With the one thing that gave me pause was that Doug and Shane are his projected final two, and Doug is his projected winner. Doug is right now sitting at 83%, and Shane is at 7%. I would imagine that, while I don't believe Shane will win, I think that number is going to go up. I think that over the course of the season, he's going to start trading a little higher. He might even get up to 20.
Okay. Now, I think that's an important consideration, right? Which is, the question is, how many people who participate in this market understand that it's really a market about the reliability of reality Steve, as opposed to a market on who's going to win? Because look, if even 10% of the people out there have no idea who reality Steve is, then you're exactly right. Then we should be loading up on Shane, and I might even make some money on Tristan if he gets through an episode or two. I don't see any way. I can't think of any way to figure that out. I, I don't think it's susceptible to empirical proof. Do you think?
I think I agree. Tried to imagine different scenarios for, like, let's say the first couple of episodes air and something makes it clear that he's wrong. Then would I want to get in starting then? And I think that the answer might be yes. If it turns out that he's wrong about some key pieces of information, then I would go buy some stock in Shane.
Okay. Amir, I know you're deeply invested in every aspect of this. Would you buy in any way here?
I think I would, because we saw the same dynamics play out, in my opinion, during the Oscars, where there was a projection that Michael B. Jordan was going to win the Oscars. He won the SAG Awards, but still there was this doubt, and he was, I think, trading at 56 cents still,
You
and that
know,
was live.
I really blew it with Michael Jordan because when I first thought about betting him, he was at 30 cents. The market Chalamet
Mhm.
was the favorite. And
Right.
I waited like, I don't know, I was doing something and I waited a couple of hours and then, I was preparing for our discussion with Dan and I was like, this is a good bet. And then by that time, like the price had gone up enough that I wasn't as convinced in it. Anyway, sorry.
No, I still think you could have been convinced in it if we just had like reran the numbers, and the I think the process is very similar. I mean, what the private voters when it comes to the Oscars also technically know what the outcome is going to be of the Academy Awards, right? So it's a similar dynamic, and I think enough people will flood the markets when it comes to this, when it comes to the Bachelorette, where you are going to be able to make money if you invest into, forget what his name was again, Shane, early on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good point. I mean, the Oscars is fixable. So somebody at, one of the good people at PricewaterhouseCoopers who
Right.
tallies the votes and delivers the envelope absolutely could go. Let's stick a pin in that for 1 second because that is illegal. And we'll talk about that and we'll talk about how Kalshi monitors it. I mean, that would be insider trading under federal law. I mean, it's trading on material, non-public information. Is it detectable? That's a different question. Okay. And so if you were going to bet, you would bet on Shane. Is that what I was taking it?
I think so. And then pull out obviously early. I wouldn't, you know, let the bet fill out.
Do you want to guess what I did?
Oh, you did bet.
I said, I think if I'm going to discuss it on the show, I'm going to bet, even if it's $1. Like when
Yeah.
we discuss aliens, I'll bet $1 or something one way or the other. Cause I mean, it's not going to be a major part of my portfolio, but I think it's important that, if I'm putting this out. So, and again, it might be sorry, I'll say this, or I might take a principled no position in that I think all of the market is exactly right. But do you want to guess whether I'm in or out?
I would guess that you're in on Doug because 83% is lower than our projected reliability of reality TV.
Yeah, I kind of got convinced. I mean, I 180'd on it, so I blew some money on Tristan, but then I went down, this path, and I love you, but boy, there's nothing about this substance of this information that's of any interest to me whatsoever. But I am interested in the idea of assessing the credibility of a journalist. And he came across as pretty credible to me. I mean, I thought it was somebody had tweeted it. He clearly in the past had a very deeply placed source within the show. So I've read that there's some degradation of the quality of his predictions. But what you said earlier, McKenna, like, it's a very, very detailed account. So sure, if it starts to fall apart, please call me the instant you read about it because I won't notice and I will, start to dump. But I'll kind of be surprised if he's not right.
I think that's reasonable. I also think that what's interesting about this in terms of being a fixed market is that even though, yes, there is some similarity to the Oscars in that sense, I mean, this is something that probably, I would guess, a couple thousand people know. I mean, it's everybody who was on the show, everybody who worked on the show, all of their families. These people are under
Oh,
NDAs, but
that's exactly right. I mean, no, this is totally different than it's different, grossly different in degree. It's not different in kind. It is a knowable outcome. But the end of people who have insight to this, first of all, a lot of these events happen in public. So as he's reported, if they're out at a, Miami Heat game or whatever, I mean, that's observable where the filming occurs. And he can chronologically place it. But, the number of people who are active on the show, it's hundreds and all of the producers. I mean, I think with respect to the Oscars, you're probably talking an end. It's possible to imagine there was only a handful of people who actually know the outcomes because once they're placed in envelopes, you don't know. I mean, I feel a lot. I mean, I think about all these things. I did think about it with the Oscars, but to some extent, right? Here, let me say this. So I did place a big bet on Jesse Buckley to win. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm getting a 6/94 return. So like a 7% return.
Congrats.
Oh, it's life-changing. Now, I think where the fixing comes in there is whoever knows is bought in. So maybe like her true chance to win should have been 92 cents, 92%. And there's some guys who've already bought in. So I feel like I know like it's priced in. I thought this was different in an emerging market. And it's very clear. Okay. So like if I knew 100% that the winner, if I knew the winner, I could go out there and put a ton of 99-cent no contracts out on the market, and people are going to be like, oh, I've got a 1% chance of, as I did, buy up those things, even though they effectively have zero chance of winning. And, that'd be all right. And I would not disparage that because that would be like a grinder's game,
Mhm.
right? I'm
Mm.
going to make a ton of 1% returns on 99-cent no contracts. But I would say that's what I do is I really play a grinder's game. I mean, there are a handful of times, there was a Supreme Court, the tariff decision. I was certain Trump was going to prevail in that. And so, I made like a 33% return on my money there over a short amount of time. When Biden was running, okay, I made a big bet on this, who his vice presidential nominee was going to be. He said he was going to pick a woman. So I just picked Amy Klobuchar and Kamala Harris. I was like, he's not going to pick Elizabeth Warren. And I just waited, 4 months, and I didn't know which one he would pick. But, cumulatively, I almost doubled my money on that. So there are some instances in which I think the market is really off. But my perception here that the market was really off, I was like, yum, 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 Tristan's 1 cent. He's clearly at least 4 cents to 10 cents. I was the rube in that because I didn't understand the actual dynamics of the market. And I just think if you're really going to be serious about doing this, you can't ever do it. And I'm lucky. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if it were late enough at night or something, and I'd taken too many a leave, maybe I would have bet too much money and I wouldn't have been able to recover. Anyway, are we as confident that reality Steve is, I guess, well, I guess there's nothing really more to discuss. I mean, I guess the question is whether his prediction of the final 3 is as reliable as who among the final 3 it is, but I don't know. There's probably not much more to say there.
I guess I would just say 2 more things. One of which being that where there are some people who post anonymous gossip tips that they've received. This is a person who actually does have a following by people who watch these shows, and it matters that he's accurate. It doesn't just matter that the information is salacious. So
Wait, hit me with that again. There's a way a group of people who
there are
what?
celebrity gossip columnists who simply take anonymous tips and post them on Twitter.
Okay.
And those accounts, you follow them not really caring if it's true because it's salacious. And you could quibble with the ethics of the person who's reading that, but the point is that the accounts gain followers simply by putting out a lot of information. And if some of it happens to be true, that's just a bonus. Whereas I believe that Reality Steve gets money and gets followers because of the fact that he's really accurate. So I think that's a big incentive in his favor.
Okay, that makes sense to me. We should spend a couple of minutes just talking about the inherent risk of insider trading here. So I guess the most publicized example of insider trading on Kalshi was was it an editor for Mr. Beast?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, so Kalshi took it seriously. So I mean, you could imagine how easy it would be to detect something like this. I mean, if a person makes a series of bets on low probability events that come in. I mean, it's just going to be red flagged. So Kalshi froze his account, fined him $20,000, suspended him for 2 years, and reported the case to the CFTC. Okay, calling then the CFTC chairman calls the exchange as the first line of defense. Okay, I have a gut here. I'm just curious what you both think about this. Do you think do you think Kalshi is has adequate incentives to police insider trading such that you have confidence about it? So I'll tell you, I have a friend, and he likes to bet on sports, um, and he told me about something. He was like, "Oh, Kalshi's not paying out on this." Let me tell you that story after. Let me just get your gut checks on this. Do you think Kalshi has adequate incentives to police its markets? Amir Rasulov, I ask you.
I don't think
That's a
so.
spot on impression of John McLaughlin. It's so dated, like there's like everybody who gets that reference is dead, but it's a great reference.
I honestly don't think so. I think they're actually incentivized to show or to market the people who are making the most amount of money, right? When you actually are trading on Kalshi app, it'll actually show the people's returns, how much money they're making. Sometimes it's into the hundreds of thousands. Those people could very well be, trading on insider information, and you have Kalshi actively promoting that rather than trying to warn people against it.
Well, Kalshi's not promoting that they're trading on inside information. They're just promoting that they made money. They're
Right.
ambivalent as to whether you made it honestly or whether you made it corruptly.
Exactly, though. They're ambivalent. They're not going out of their way to catch bad actors.
But they're not going out. Oh, well, hold on. They're not going out of their way to promote bad actors. All you said is that they put the numbers up of earnings. I don't think that. I don't. Hold on. Let me get McKenna's take on this, and then I'll tell you, and I'll push back.
My gut also says no, but I'm having a hard time coming up with the reason why. I mean, as you said, the Mr. Beast example being pretty prominent, and it's my understanding that the trades he was making were not some sort of route to unfathomable wealth. I mean, he was
Right.
Yeah, he was proportionally punished. But I still my gut says no.
Okay, let me ask you another question. Maybe you won't, maybe neither of you will care about this, but does baseball, Major League Baseball, have an adequate incentive, have high incentives to police the fairness of the game?
Don't think so. Police the game against what? Against cheating or against like doping?
Cheating. Insider trading, gambling, anything, any corruption.
I think they would sell tickets and then promote the game, right?
What do you think, McKenna?
I think there's obviously the strongest incentive is for the players, because the players, if something happens, their career is absolutely over. If there's a cheating scandal for
The strongest incentive is for the players to
not cheat.
remember. Yeah, but they're only not going to cheat if there's a disincentive. Who's imposing the disincentive? Okay, I'm going to spare you your agony. I actually think there's a clear answer on this. I actually think Kalshi has a lot of incentives to police the market, in the same way that Major League Baseball and football and basketball have lots of incentives to police the integrity of the game. So actually, Major League Sports have a great track record on this. I mean, Pete Rose bet on his team to win baseball games, and he was suspended for life. So this isn't like Shoeless Joe Jackson, if you know your ancient baseball history, where he threw a game. Major League Baseball has no tolerance for this. And, we've seen fixing in NBA basketball, but come down incredibly hard. You have a federal prosecution in basketball that involves Chauncey Billups. I don't think neither of you care about basketball, right? Okay. The point of it is that the leagues take it incredibly seriously. They police it very actively because, and this is what I think you're missing in this, because they make money from selling tickets, and nobody's buying a ticket because the game has been thrown. The more competitive the game is, the better. And in the same way, Kalshi, and so my friend, I started to tell you the story. it was I forget what market he was involved in, but he was like saying Kalshi. He was upset with the way Kalshi had resolved the dispute, and I actually thought on the merits of it, Kalshi was right in its interpretation of the rules. That I thought the rule was actually clear. But the point is, Kalshi has no incentive to manipulate the rules. Kalshi doesn't. Kalshi's not on any side of the bet. Kalshi's not a bookie. Kalshi has no exposure. Kalshi is perfectly ambivalent. If 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 you and I bet on if McKenna's going to flip a coin and you and I bet on it, Amir, and you bet the yes and I bet the no, you pay 50 cents. Kalshi takes effectively a penny of that.
Mhm.
I bet 50 cents. Kalshi takes a penny of that. So it costs you 51 cents to win $1 if it comes up heads. It costs me 51 cents to win $1 if it comes up tails. And Kalshi doesn't give a crap. They make 2 cents either way. They have no incentive whatsoever for the market to come out either way. I mean, this is very, I presume most people get this, but every trade is balanced. I mean, if I'm betting a, 1% yes, that's a 99% no. Kalshi never has any risk. And, in horse racing, it's the same thing. So it's different if the track were making the odds. So if Kalshi were making odds, then there would be situations in which Kalshi had exposure, meaning, they'd set a bad line early and they got too much money on one side or the other. But they're never in that situation. Now, that doesn't mean that people don't have incentives to cheat. Okay. So there's tons of incentives to cheat in horse racing. A trainer named Bob Baffert has famously been suspended for drugging his horses on multiple occasions. But the track, he's not in cahoots with the track. And the track and the national body that oversees. It's complicated what the oversight structure is there, but certainly in California, where most of his behavior occurred, they come down on it very, very harshly, because if the market is not perceived as fair, then Kalshi doesn't. That's what would really hurt a prediction market. So I actually have reasonable to high confidence that they don't let it happen, because the Mr. Beast story is a terrible story if that comes out and they don't crack down on it.
I guess the argument that I was trying to make is that I think in Major League Baseball, there was an instance where a lot of players were doping and it would make the games a lot more fun to watch for the viewers. That would increase ticket sales. And so the MLB would be incentivized to allow the players.
Okay. So it's a great example, but doping is different in the sense that, the steroid scandal did not create a competitive imbalance. The issue there, similar to, I don't know if you followed like Lance Armstrong and Floyd Landis. Have you ever listened to a podcast with Floyd Landis? Floyd Landis's defense was the same as Barry Bonds' defense, which was that everybody was doing it. Right. So baseball really had to face a dilemma between, do we just want to let everybody do it, or do we want to do the enormous lift of policing the whole thing to level the playing field at zero? But I don't think it's a competitive imbalance. Maybe you could argue that baseball had some, maybe that interest in the game peaked because Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa hit so many home runs. But I don't think that's, go ahead.
You don't think that's a fact?
I don't think that they were sitting there and saying, moo hoo hoo hoo, let's let them keep drugging because it's good for the game. I just think, I think anybody understands in the long term. So by your logic, the new CEO of Kalshi could come in and say, oh, we want to have somebody who's worth $100 million on the top of the leaderboard. And so they start feeding, I don't know how they start encouraging somebody to trade on inside information. The market, it would be dead in a second. And actually, in many respects, baseball, it'd be interesting to look at the data on it. I mean, baseball certainly diminished greatly in popularity during the 2000s and 2010s, right? I mean, long-term baseball has lost a ton of market share. And I don't know whether the steroid scandal, I'd have to look at the data, look at attendance data on that. But I don't know that on balance that it increased the popularity of the game. But I know that if I'm the commissioner of baseball, I'm like, my sacred duty is to preserve the perception of integrity in this game. Sorry, I think I cut you off.
No, not me. Not at all.
Not you, Amir? If not you, who? All right. Well, I feel like we've said it all. All right. McKenna, I used to have enormous respect for you. Now, I don't know. Amir, I never had that much respect. No, this was a great discussion. Okay. I'm gonna watch. It's Thursday night, right, McKenna?
Might be a little later than that. I think
Oh
Saturday.
yeah. Is it this weekend?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll set my VCR. Don't you worry.
Yeah. You'll dedicate some serious weekend time to this.
Oh,
Yeah, it's on
for
Sunday.
sure, for sure. No, I'm gonna watch it. Okay, and I'm sorry. Now you just before I let you go. So what happened? There's an allegation of domestic violence on the show.
Yes. So she had previously been arrested for domestic violence with
She had been.
yes, she had. This was a charge that she had already faced with this same man, the man she was married to when she was on Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I guess she's still technically on the show, but her baby daddy, she has 3 children with this man, and there had been some sort of physical altercation in which she was arrested, and I believe she pled guilty to the charges. And all of this, I mean, the season's airing, it's so dramatic. All she's doing is getting more famous. And so she decides she wants a clean slate and to find love. And so all the men who went on The Bachelor did this knowing that she had a domestic violence charge. And then at the season films, and it ends, she picks a guy, and at some point she gets back with the ex, and there was another somewhat more serious. That the allegation is that she choked him and left some physical scratches on his neck and chest.
Who is this guy?
His name is Dakota. He's the father of her children.
Does Dakota have a job?
Good question. I think so. You know, I don't really know him, but yeah, it seems like they really have something that neither of them can let go of.
Oh wow. Okay. So like now I didn't fully process this. So the star of the show is a Mormon.
Yes.
I thought she was the victim of domestic violence. She is the perpetrator, the alleged or perhaps convicted perpetrator of domestic violence, who is a mother of 3.
Yes.
And had she been broken up from Dakota?
Yes. But on the most recent episode of Secret Life of Mormon Wives, it was revealed that the night before she left for the Bachelorette, I think she slept with him or something. So
Oh my God.
I
Wait,
know.
are Mormons allowed to have sex with each other?
Well, you know, I think the kind of Mormon woman that's going on 2 different reality TV shows maybe has a little bit more of a lenient sense of her relationship with the Lord.
So this is the secret lives of heathen Mormon wives? No, actually, are Mormons allowed to have extramarital sex?
No.
I don't. Oh, so you're also an expert on Mormonism.
Well, and they can. It's a whole thing on the show that they actually can, as opposed to popular belief, they actually can consume caffeine. They just can't consume warm caffeine, so they're always drinking Diet Coke.
Oh, somebody told me that. Okay. By the way, it's the 15th anniversary of the Book of Mormon, and Stephen Colbert just had Trey Parker.
Amazing. Well, in the promos for this season, they have Taylor in her beautiful dress holding up a book, and the book says "The Book of More Men." So that's their little tagline.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. All right. Well, on that note, I am now going to sort of take some type of drug and try to forget everything that we've talked about. So I will remember how smart you are. McKenna, thank you. Amir, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Be well, everybody. Universal Basic Calci Guys was created and is hosted by Michael Horahan and Evan Mandery. Our producer is Amir Rasulov. Our theme song is Passing Trains by Nathan Eklund. You can follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Instagram at UBK Guys, or email us at admin@ubkguys.com. The content on Universal Basic Kalshi Guys is for informational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute trading, financial, or investment advice. Nothing discussed on this show should be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell contracts on any prediction market. Trading on prediction markets involves real financial risk, and you could lose money. Always do your own research and consider your own financial situation before trading. The hosts may and often do hold positions in markets discussed on the show. Views expressed by guests are their own and do not reflect the positions of the show or its hosts. If you or someone you know is struggling with problem gambling, free and confidential help is available 24/7 through the National Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-522-4700 or visit ncpgambling.org.